Monday Night Wars podcast.
Hello and welcome to another episode of the Monday Night Wars. It is May 19th, 1997, and we're at the Asheville Civic Center in Asheville, North Carolina. And we are live with WCW Nitro. That is, thank God, again, only an hour because of the NBA playoffs.
Yes.
So we can get through it quickly because it's another episode that's not great, in my opinion.
Yep, I agree.
But we'll see what you think. Okay, done. Bye, everybody. Let's get to
before we do,
start up.
We actually got a letter from one of our listener viewers. And it says, quote, "Hey, Scott and Joseph, I just wanted to say what a great podcast you guys have created. I found your podcast as I wanted an insight into the WCW period of the Monday Night Wars. I was/still am a WWF/E guy, and I couldn't be asked to watch them on the network. I'm so glad I found your podcast. What a great podcast. I travel all over the UK as part of my job. So since April, I have had you playing constantly, and I have loved every minute. Keep up the great work. Kind regards, Andrew from Nottingham, the land of Robin Hood, and Brian Clough. Look him up. Wow. The man is a god in Nottingham." First off, thanks so much for the kind words, Andrew. We really appreciate it. Now, before we go into anything else, I did actually look up a little bit about Nottingham because also I had to look up Brian Clough, but I will get to him in a moment. Apparently, when people look up Nottingham, they ask, why is it famous? Which I had to look at because I figured that would make me chuckle, and it did not disappoint. It said on the Googles, it said Nottingham is, quote, known for its rich history, thriving student life, and creative culture. No, it ain't. It's known for Robin Hood.
That's
full stop.
That's what I think about when I think of Nottingham. Is its thriving student culture.
I'm not saying it doesn't. Go ahead.
No, this is probably one of those things like in the UK, people probably, there's a school there and it's a good place and all that. But no one outside of the UK thinks that. They think of Robin Hood.
Yeah.
And the Sheriff of Nottingham.
Yeah. I'm not saying it doesn't have those things, but it certainly isn't known for those things. OnlyFans has content creator engagement and merchandise opportunities, but it's known for its porn. So kind of the same thing.
That's true. Yeah, OnlyFans doesn't have to be porn. It's just mostly porn.
Yes. Anyways, Brian Clough was a former footballer and manager. If I read correctly, it was his management of Derby County and Nottingham Forest that made him a household name. So apparently, yes, he is quite a god in Nottingham. So thanks, Andrew. Appreciate the letter, man.
Well, how about that? I'm more of a Bobby Moore man myself. He won England the World Cup. So there we go. I'm just telling you. Let's tell you, West Ham, the Academy of Football. Anyways, we're gonna get another letter from him now. It's like, fuck you, I hate you now.
Absolutely.
So that's gonna be fun. Because UK take their Premier League seriously.
Yes.
But anyway, what we're not taking seriously is this podcast.
Nope.
We got Tony, Bobby, and Larry, and we also got Ric Flair. Because he crashes the commentary table to tell us that Slamboree was the biggest thrill of his wrestling career.
Yes, he does.
For those of you that don't subscribe to the Patreon, it's only $2 a month, by the way, but for those of you that don't, I'm going to give you just a one spoiler because we're trying to keep it to a minimum because we really want to encourage people to to subscribe to the Patreon because this shit ain't cheap doing all this. We affectionately called it, Joseph, I believe, called it a slam boring,
Yes.
and I called it shitboree. So there you go.
Which, by the way,
yeah.
we are at the time of this recording having technical difficulties with the previous recording. So we're hoping it saves. You may, if you're subscribing to the Patreon, get a very angry rushed recording of Slamboree if it does not save properly. We're not sure yet. We're going to give it the old college try, but man, it is a nightmare to start off our batch.
Hell, we're not even sure this one's going to save. So this could be a really fun block of podcasts for everybody. But anyways, we got Ric Flair, and Ric Flair is interrupted by Six. And, I think I've said too much because I know you're our play-by-play commentator here. I think I've kind of stolen your gig, so I'm giving it back to you. Tell me what happens with this Ric and Six confrontation.
Yeah. You mentioned the thrill stuff. I don't have to go back over that. Flair says he erased self-doubt and the philosophies of the NWO. He says instead of putting this to the side, he wants back in. Like you said, Six comes out. And Six says, you guys beat no one last night. The wrong guy was in the ring. Which, who's to say it was kind of a shit show. Flair takes off his jacket as Six points out that Flair said he could take him, which is true. Flair said that multiple times. He tells Flair if he has the guts, they will face off tonight. Flair laughs and says Six is like a fly in the ointment. The two start swinging and Flair chases Six around. I don't hate this, but I don't love it. So let's see where it goes. Right now, I'm giving it a C+.
Okay, it's a gentleman. It's a wait and C plus. But let's see what our next match is. Because it's Steven Regal. Oh, well, hell yeah.
Right.
Versus Prince Iaukea, who we don't hate, for the WCW TV title. Tell me.
No longer Lord Steven Regal. Steven Regal is back to his Black Pudlian ways. We see that all over this match as he just bullies Prince Iaukea and beats him very easily. There is really no storyline in this, but it was quite fun, even though it's quick, giving it a B.
Yeah, Steven Regal is just so good at just chewing the scenery, He just tells a story with his body, and I love it. I love every Steven Regal match. So, okay, it's pretty short, about 2.5 minutes, but I like it. We get some recaps from Slamboree. There was a Glacier match. Boy, howdy.
Yes.
And we got a debut.
We did.
Ernest the Cat Miller.
Well, great. Now no one is going to subscribe to the Patreon and find out.
Well, they talk about him on the show. It's not like I can, there's a whole conversation about Ernest the Cat Miller, who apparently is a karate fighter and also Eric Bischoff's friend, which I mentioned for no particular reason.
Nope, none whatsoever.
Tony spends a bunch of time in preparation for our next match telling us how fantastic Ernest the Cat Miller is. And yeah, he's got apparently he's really good with the karate. So we'll see what that does for us. But that brings us to our next match where we got Chono, one of the greatest Japanese wrestlers of all time. I'm going to say that again. Chono, one of the greatest Japanese wrestlers of all time. I don't know Japanese wrestling. I know Chono because he's famous. He's one of the greatest Japanese wrestlers of all time. Wrestling just some random ass mid-card match against Squire Dave Taylor.
Yes.
For 3 minutes. Tell me.
Which, to be clear, we do love Squire Dave Taylor, who is, by the way, also only being referred to as Dave Taylor. There's really nothing to do with that and Steven Regal, but I think they just kind of realized that's kind of over. Mike Tenay tells us a big star will debut on the June 30th episode of Nitro. But you'll have to keep watching our show to find out who it is, or Google it. Chono wins with an STF.
Yeah.
The more they do these throwaway matches, the less I want to talk about them. There's nothing necessarily wrong with them. They just have no substance. Get to see.
It's just weird booking. Just always. Just weird booking. Why would you fly Chono because presumably they flew him from Japan.
Right.
To do that. Like for this random ass match. It doesn't make sense to me. Anyways, apparently we got Chono here for a couple of weeks because Sonny Ono tells us he's going to be here next week and that he's got a surprise opponent for him. Very exciting. Then JJ Dillon informs us that Nick Patrick, who apparently had been fired.
He was kind of suspended.
Yeah, but now he's back on a probationary basis. But that confuses me a little bit because I don't want to give away the main event of the pay-per-view, but
that's their out.
Is he not Oh, I guess we'll find out all about that. Bullshit.
Yeah. My favorite part of this, hold on, before we go on, my favorite part of this is that he tells us all this, and it's fine. Like you said, probationary period, 30 days. Then we cut to Tony Schiavone, who throws us right back to the exact same pre-recorded JJ Dillon segment. It happens twice in a row, and I laughed. It gets a D. Also, the Sonny Ono interview gets a D. That was boring too. So,
Surprise opponent. Sounds exciting. Yeah, so this is, I mentioned this and I put a lot of emphasis in this because this leads to an important storyline. So make a mental note in your head about this moment that Nick Patrick has been reinstated and on a probationary basis. Remember that because we're going to get back to it and we're going to hate it. But it's important that you remember. Speaking of things I hate, Michael Wall Street versus Scotty Riggs. I don't really hate it, but it's
it's not.
Who cares? Who cares? Tell me about it.
So the newly reinstated, but on the 30-day probationary period, Nick Patrick is reffing this, and Mike Wall Street is in this, but isn't in the NWO. Like he's in it, but he isn't. Because reasons. Patrick prevents a foreign object use and even kicks Wall Street's arm off of the ropes when he's using them as leverage for a pin. This allows Riggs to roll up Wall Street for the win. This whole segment is meant to establish that Nick Patrick is a rule enforcer again and not a rule breaker. So for that, I'm giving it a C. I do think it does that job well.
Yeah. Mike Wall Street has this weird new gimmick where, remember, he joined NWO. Then they said there was something wrong with the contract. So now he's not in NWO. He's on the WCW payroll, I guess, but he also hates WCW because they won't let him join NWO. So he's got like these shirts with like NWO X'd out of it. Or I'm sorry, it's WCW, but it's like got the no, like it's like a no smoking sign, but instead of a cigarette, it's WCW. It's got the circle with the line through it. Just fire him then.
Yeah.
If I got an employee not being a team player, they get fired. I don't know if I really question the management of WCW here. They don't know how to handle their HR issues. Clearly.
Yeah.
It's a real problem. After that, we got Mean Gene and we got some NASCAR. I've realized we have a lot of European listeners.
Yes.
We've got listeners in Germany, and we've just found out we got at least one listener in the UK. Do they know what NASCAR is? Have we ever explained what NASCAR even is? They probably know, right?
Yeah, I think they know. It's like your guys' Formula One racing, except it sucks.
Wow.
Am I wrong?
I was wondering where you were going to go with that.
It's
I was wondering where you were going to go with that. Because I think when you said it's like your Formula One, they were going to scoff at you on that. But then you said, but sucks. So I think they're back in.
Yeah.
They were out, but now they're back in. It's race car driving. It has a history in like Prohibition,
Yes.
where people were making like cars to outrun the cops because they were
Mhm.
bootlegging and stuff. And so I think it honestly used to be kind of cooler because it used to really be kind of a DIY, like you were building a car to race.
Mhm.
And now they have such high standards and they're all basically the same car. I don't think it's that interesting.
And you
anymore.
just
But
make
some
a
people
left
love it.
turn and then another left turn and
Yes.
another left turn. And
Some people really love it though, and we'll probably get some letters because
Yes.
wrestling fans are Southern.
Yes.
And so we're going to get some
Mhm.
letters because they like NASCAR. After that, though, speaking of hitting the road, we're on the road with Mr. Lee Marshall, and he's in Nashville, not Asheville, North Carolina. Tell me about it, Joseph.
Well, that would be Nashville, Tennessee, not Asheville.
Mm-hmm.
You said,
I don't know.
you said North Carolina. Anyways, he says he knows.
I'm looking.
Yeah, there you go.
I'm going to look
He
and see if they
says
got
he
one.
knows Nashville is the heart and soul of country music and the Country Music Hall of Fame. But being an old rock and roll and rhythm and blues guy, he had to drop by RCA's historic Studio B, which is where Elvis recorded a lot of his best stuff. In fact, while digging around the studio, Lee found the original lyrics to one of rock's greatest ballads, and he'll do a little bit for us now. And then he then sings, "Well, since my baby left me, I found a new place to dwell. The service reeks, the toilet leaks. It's Weasel Hotel." Bobby then says, "Wrong guys in the ground." And I almost spit out my water when I was watching this. A+, so good.
Good comebacks. And for the record, there is a Nashville, North Carolina.
That's hilarious.
A population of 5,000.
There you go.
So clearly, the more important Nashville is in Nashville, North Carolina, which is why I mistakenly
absolutely
referenced it. Yeah. Silly me. After that, we got some more clips from Slamboree, although I don't think this one's super important, so I'm not gonna talk about it. And you just gotta listen to the pod, right?
$2 a month.
Whoa! Which takes us to our next match. And
Mm-hmm.
Steve Mongo McMichael versus Jeff Jarrett.
With Jeff Jarrett.
Who are they not? Isn't this a tag team match?
Yeah, you said versus Jeff Jarrett. I said with Jeff Jarrett.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yes, Steve. Well, I said versus Jeff Jarrett because don't these guys hate each other? I don't get it.
Basically, yeah, they do.
They keep messing up each other's matches, but here they are in a tag team match versus the Steiner brothers. So tell me about this 3-minute, 30-second tag team match.
Eventually, Jarrett tries for the Halliburton, because of course he does, but Kevin Green stops him. He hits Mongo with it, and the Steiners win. During the commercial break, Green and Mongo are fighting backstage. Meh. Giving it a D.
Which, again, Kevin Green was just wrestling with Ric Flair.
Yeah.
Ric Flair's in the Four Horsemen.
Yep.
Mongo and Jeff Jarrett are in the Four Horsemen.
Yep.
Who is on whose side here? This is the Spider-Man meme of everybody pointing at each other. What is going on? I don't get it. But what I do get is our next match, because it's got Ric Flair in it and 6. And it's quite the barn burner, don't you think, Joseph? At 57 seconds.
Yes. It takes no time for the NWO to interfere. Flair gets hit with an outsider's edge, and then the jackknife from Kevin Nash. Nash grabs a mic and taunts Flair and Piper, telling them they will put them both out of the business. Scott Hall rambles about them being dinosaurs. It gets a C. It's fine. It's whatever.
Yeah, this made me mad because I was excited for this match.
Yes.
Because I like Ric Flair, and 6 is a great worker.
Mm-hmm.
I thought we were going to have a good match, and then they do the shit they always do.
Well, okay, to be fair, I knew that they were going to interfere, but I thought I'd get like 5 to 10 minutes out of this first before that happened.
A little bit.
Nope. Yeah.
Not 57 seconds.
Yeah.
Yeah. But we're not done yet, because we are joined by Eric Bischoff, and he's going to lay it all down for us, isn't he, Joseph?
Absolutely.
We're tying up these loose ends. We're taking the positive we had from Slamboree, and we're shitting all over it. Tell me about it.
At this point, I just find myself angry watching Nitro. He says his I love you stuff. He says you don't want to mess with Hall and Nash. He says he's called Sting's home and left messages at his gym. He even hired a private eye to find him, to invite him to Nitro to talk to him face to face. He calls Sting a coward. He says Sting will never get in the ring with Hogan because he isn't worth a drop of Hollywood's perspiration. Sting comes up through the ring, though, and hits a Scorpion Death Drop on Bischoff. Every Sting NWO segment I love and hate. I love them because Sting is great, but I hate them because the NWO is just boring at this point. I'm giving it a C.
Yeah, and it's just, what are we doing?
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. I know what we're doing. We're getting in the car and we're going to Mobile, Alabama.
Yep.
For a WWF Raw at the Mobile Civic Center. Very exciting. And we got Jerry and we got JR, but we don't have any Vince.
True.
Thought it was kind of interesting. But before that, we start off with what we missed last week. Because as Joseph explained, if you're watching these as Joseph explained in excruciating detail, if you're watching these on Peacock or now Netflix, you get to see the whole thing. You get to see the super kick to Bret in the wheelchair, but that's not how it happened.
Nope.
Watching the show in 1997. Bret purposely, Bret claims that he didn't,
it was an accident. Yeah.
Bullshit.
Yeah.
Bullshit. You're a Bret hater.
Yes.
You love Shawn Michaels. I'm kind of indifferent. I like Shawn. I like Shawn, and I actually like Bret.
Yes.
But but they're like, I'm not like, I don't have any like real, like, that's my guy, or that's not my
You got no skin in the game. Yeah.
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 They hate each other, and Bret absolutely did this on purpose so Shawn could not get over on him. That's exactly why he did this. I do not believe anything else at all. I kind of love it because I love how petty this is going to get, but he purposely
Tonight, in fact,
just rambled. Yeah, he purposely just rambled so Shawn could not get the super kick to Bret in the wheelchair on the show. So we start the night with what we missed. Bret ends his ramble. Shawn gives him the super kick. Bret falls out of the wheelchair. And we're go. You got anything more you want to add to that? But that's the start of the show.
No, I mean, you were saying, obviously Bret did that on purpose. And tonight, Shawn's going to do something that's clearly on purpose. So it's not, as much as I hate Bret Hart as a person, and I have to always stress that, love him as a wrestler, hate him as a person. This is not a one-sided thing. They're both guilty of being fucking idiots at this time. So we're going to have a very fun talk about this one tonight. It's an historic and infamous night in wrestling history.
They are both giving it as good as they're getting it.
Yes.
But before we get to that, we got a Stone Cold Steve Austin interview. And speaking of bias, he can do no wrong. Tell me about this segment, Joseph.
Well, anyways, there's a fan that has a sign that reads WCW, Weird Captive Wusses. And I laughed because I don't know what that means. JR says it is his understanding that Austin is here to address his actions last week. And Austin says, you're damn right, I want to address my actions of last week. And if you remember, Austin came out and saved Shawn Michaels after the Hart Foundation beat him up, which of course we saw live on Raw and not on replay. I want to clear something up right now. I don't give a rat's ass about Shawn Michaels. The only reason that I came out here is because the Hart Foundation turned their back. I saw the cheap shot. I damn well took it. And that's the only reason I came out last week. I will say this, as far as Shawn Michaels is concerned, he can thank his lucky stars that Stone Cold was there because it looks like he was about to take a hell of an ass whooping. The Hart Foundation runs in a pack, but I'm weaving my way through that pack with Shawn Michaels. Without him, it don't really matter. Shawn Michaels goes his way, I go mine. The fact is, the Hart Foundation is the common denominator. But if you think for one split second that the two and then the crowd cheers, and Austin turns to see why. Shawn has come down to the ring and he looks cool as fuck. Austin says, I ain't your friend, but I got no problem with you. And then Shawn says, let me tell you something, son. It wasn't too long ago that the Heartbreak Kid did the same thing for you, which is true. And you know something, you shouldn't flatter yourself. I didn't do it to save your ass either. I did it because I hate the Hart Foundation just as much as every other guy in the World Wrestling Federation. Now, let me make one thing perfectly clear to you. As he says this, he's poking Austin, and Austin does not take too kindly to this poking. I have fallen off ladders long before you ever got here, son. I have been tossed off of the top of a 15-foot steel cage long before you got here, son. And I'll tell you what, I might have gotten thrown off that stage right there, and you're damn right it would have hurt. But the Heartbreak Kid would have picked himself back up and gotten back in the game again. So believe me, you didn't do me any favors. And now the poking is super aggressive. He's almost pushing him. Austin replies, I ain't saying you ain't tough. What I'm saying is you might as well take your little bandana and go backstage before I kick your damn teeth down your throat. HBK retorts, so you're telling me, the master of the sweet chin music, that you're going to kick my teeth down my throat? And Austin says, damn right. And then HBK continues, well, let me tell you something. The Heartbreak Kid may just stun you and stomp your guts in. And that, my friends, is the bottom line, whether you like it or not. Austin spreads his arms like an NBA player who's pretending he did not foul someone. And then he starts swinging at Shawn, and the two brawl. They have to be separated. So this is how a promo battle is supposed to work, huh? Take notes, Bret Hart. Meanwhile, backstage, we hear Owen laughing and saying, hey, look at you two idiots. You typical stupid Americans, you're fighting amongst yourselves. We see that Owen, Bulldog, and Anvil are on the Titantron. You can't even get along between the two of you. I wish Bret was here to see these two morons fighting amongst themselves. But don't worry, Bret is going to be here in a few minutes. Owen points out that Stone Cold and HBK are fighting for the same cause, but laughs at their inability to get on the same page. He issues a challenge to them to wrestle for the tag titles next week, knowing they won't be able to coexist. HBK says that he'll find himself a different partner because he can't trust Austin. And then he says that he will clean house. And then Austin says the only thing he'll clean is a toilet. Austin says instead he'll find someone for next week and not Shawn. The two argue again, and then they start fighting each other again. They finally get separated, and JR has a funny line where he tells Jerry the King, next time you do the interview. And I laughed out loud. This is an A+ segment. Every person who spoke in this does a phenomenal job.
And this is kind of the beginning of Shawn and Stone Cold, this tag team run.
Yes.
Which we really enjoy. We enjoy the tag team that hates each other.
Yeah.
Kind of
begrudging allies.
Yes. And this is a fun one. Yeah. We like it.
This is also an interesting one. Hold on, before we go on. This is also an interesting one because there's going to be some backstage drama. What? 1997? No way. Which is going to make this short-lived. And as much as we love it, the interesting turn of events that they do with it, I think might be better than what we were initially getting. But you're going to have to keep tuning in to find out.
Wow, what a cliffhanger that is. But speaking of cliffhangers, I got nothing. I got absolutely nothing. King of the Ring qualifier, Crush versus Hunter Hearst Helmsley, because we got the King of the Ring coming up. So apparently we got to do some qualification matches. 3 minutes, 55 seconds. Tell me.
So if you remember, Hunter Hearst Helmsley lost last week or the week before. He lost his qualifier match against Ahmed Johnson. So Vader was supposed to be in this match, but he's sitting out due to his nose being broken in 4 places. Helmsley, because of this, gets another chance. Jerry Briscoe is backstage and he's asked why. Apparently, Tim White made a mistake in pre-match instructions, so Hunter is getting another chance to avoid any sort of lawsuit. So JR says Hunter must feel as fortunate as the 1997 San Antonio Spurs, who just gained the number 1 pick in the draft, and will no doubt be Tim Duncan. JR was right here. The future Hall of Famer would lead them to 5 NBA titles. Better than that bitch-ass Karl Malone. So Savio
Wow.
Vega. Well, am I wrong? Anyways.
I mean...
Savio Vega accidentally kicks Crush and Hunter advances. Savio and Crush start arguing and Farooq has to separate them. Given this a C, I kind of like what's going on with the Nation because I think this is the crack starting and we're going to get Nation 2.0 before we get Prime Nation. So we're moving in the right direction.
Yes, we are. But, speaking of Tim Duncan being better than Karl Malone, does that make me Ginobili in this situation?
Make you Tony Parker.
Tony Parker, okay.
Tony Parker was the point guard.
I can live
Ginobili was the 6-man shooting guard, yeah.
Gotcha. I guess I can live with that. It doesn't have the same ring.
Well, I don't know if you want that. You probably hate that as much as I hate being the Karl Malone in the situation.
Oh.
Because Tony
Parker
Parker
got some baggage.
Tony Parker was married to the unbelievably gorgeous Eva Longoria.
Yeah, I've heard of her.
And I say was because for some reason he decided I'm going to cheat on that.
Why did they do that?
I don't know.
It's a weird,
yeah.
It's a weird celebrity thing.
Yeah.
Like, it happens all the time where they're married, the guy's married to some just gorgeous actress, model, whatever, and then they cheat on them.
Yeah.
And then and then I don't want to, all people are beautiful.
No, they're not.
But then you see the person they cheated with and you go, her?
Huh? Yeah.
I don't get it. I do not get it. But what I do get is an Owen Hart match, and that pleases me because I got Owen Hart versus Bob Sparkplug Holly, who we also love, just not quite there yet.
Yes.
So tell me about this match, which was, let me check my notes, 3 minutes, 38 seconds.
This is the hometown of Bob Holly. So they pre-recorded some hometown fans who are rooting for him, which is honestly quite nice. Jerry had a chance to also speak to some hometown fans, and it's really cringy and embarrassing.
Yeah.
He basically brought 2 individuals who may or may not be all there on the screen. Normally, as you guys probably know by now, I screenshot moments and I post it so you know what I'm talking about. I will not post this one because it should honestly be wiped. I refuse to make light of these individuals. Anyways, fuck you, Jerry Lawler. Like Leaf Cassidy last week, Bob Holly is a wildly underrated in-ring worker. We have a really fun match between both competitors that sees Owen go for a sharpshooter. Holly counters it into an inside cradle for the surprise win. The Harts are incensed and they charge the ring, but Holly escapes through the crowd. This was very fun outside of the Jerry Lawler stuff. I'm giving it a B.
Yeah, to go back to the Jerry Lawler thing, because if you recall, this pissed me off a little bit when we watched it. It's just...
I remember it a different way, but sure.
I think I recall being kind of offended. Like, what the hell?
Yes, no, you were offended, to be clear. Yes, you were offended by this. But there's also another part of the story that we can't go into, because I think out of context, it would look really bad. So, but there was a funny back and forth.
Wow. Way to put me out there. No, they find, like, he goes and talks to what he calls real Alabama natives.
Yeah.
They're probably people who came to the show. normal people
Yeah.
come into a wrestling show, and he found like some of the just most stereotypical down home redneck Southerners. They don't seem real bright, and he's just making fun of them to their faces. And I'm like, these are just people who came to your show, man. What?
No, it's horrible.
Leave them alone.
And surprisingly, like next week he gets worse.
Yeah. And like, and they're smart enough to know they're being made fun of. Like they seem kind of
I don't know if they do.
not. They
That's the problem is
they
why it's
kind
so
of
uncomfortable because you don't know. You really don't know what's going on.
the guy kind of responds like, "Oh yeah," like a polite thing. Like he's trying to be polite, but I think he kind of understands that this isn't pleasant because Jerry's asking them rude questions.
Yeah.
It's just what? Why do this to people who like your product? I don't get it.
Yeah.
I do not
Yeah.
get it.
It was horrible the
Yeah.
first time we watched it, horrible this time. Yeah. There's a lot of good moments on tonight's episode, and this is not one of them.
It's a Jerry moment.
Yep.
Speaking of good moments, though, after that, we go to Jim Cornette, who has some contracts for Sonny to sign, but she got herself a super soaker, and she soaks him. It's a super soaker commercial, but I kind of enjoy these super soaker commercials because they could be so much worse than they are, and they're just kind of lighthearted, and I'm okay with it.
Well, I think this is like the one time they realize these are for kids. Maybe don't be, which to be fair with the karate fighters, they were very much like that. The karate fighter ads, they were very, kid friendly. So they at least, whoever is on the PR team that's like, no, we need to make sure that this is for kids is doing a good job.
I assume
Yeah.
I assume they have to run these things by like Super Soaker and Karate. Like, I don't think they could just do it. Like, this is what we're thinking. And then they go like, yeah, that's okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because I wouldn't put it past them on last week's episode for Vince to go, yeah, so we got Sonny in a white t-shirt and Super Soaker goes, no.
Yeah.
And then they had to pivot real fast. But it was fine. After that, though, we're told that Shawn Michaels has found a partner for next week. It's Ken Shamrock. So we're good. He's got a partner. No problem there. Nothing's going to happen with that. Should be fine.
Yeah. JR asks if Shamrock is Shawn's partner. Shawn says, you look around and you see that this is a dangerous situation. So who better to go with than the world's most dangerous man? Shamrock says this is a privilege and an honor and that HBK can count on him. The short, it's simple, nothing wrong with it. I enjoyed it. I gave it a B. Also, it's also like a really cool matchup. Like this, I'm going to real quickly let you guys know, this ain't going to be his tag team partner. No. But if it was, not a bad choice. Like, it makes sense. I'm like, okay, this is your big up and coming star. I like it.
Problem solved. He's got a partner. Nothing will change. After that, though, because this is like 3 back-to-back segments where we're like telling stories.
Yes.
I guess the Super Soaker commercial really isn't a story, but it is kind of, Sonny's
I also don't count that as a segment. It's a commercial.
Yeah. But we've at least got 2 things back to back, which are telling stories, because we got another segment here. We got Mick Foley interview part 2. And I'm going to let you tell us because I know you love these. So just go.
Yeah, these are fantastic. JR says that these interviews are not like the Goldust ones, and he couldn't be more right. These interviews detail the character of Mankind by showing how Mick Foley slowly devolved into him. The goal of these is to expand the character, not just tell you, oh, he's a man, by the way. What ends up happening is Mick Foley for the next couple of weeks will beautifully interweave the character of Mankind with the man of Mick Foley, and you really don't know which is which. Are these one man or one man that has truly got multiple personalities? This is the beginning of the faces of Foley, and what unintentionally happens is Mankind gains so much sympathy and support and becomes one of WWF's brightest stars. Now, I'm going to definitely go into a lot more of that next week because next week's I think is even better than this one, but this one is fantastic. I encourage you to watch all of these, but let's start with this one. I think you said this is part 2. I'm pretty sure this is actually part 1. JR details the boyhood dreams of Mick Foley and how they led to his own personal hell. Mankind outlines that the misconception is he's a bad man. He tells us a story of being bullied as a kid and realizing that pain, suffering, and his own blood allowed him to finally be better than the other kids. He talks about growing up loving wrestling. JR says the emotional scars of a strange childhood are still evident. Mankind then says other people in their cliques would gang up on him. And this line is brilliant because we, as the audience, have heard HBK refer to his fans as the clique for the last year. They've done it over and over, even though it's never really worked. This line allows the audience to realize the differences between HBK and Foley, which they're going to continue next week. HBK is popular and Foley is an outcast, and it begins to force them to look inward. If the Shawn Michaels of the world can gang up on a bully, can gang up and bully the Foleys, does that make us, as Shawn's fans, accessories to his trauma? It's beautiful storytelling. It's fantastic. Mankind tells us about kids throwing worms at him to hurt his pride. So he decided to suck down the worm to show them he couldn't be gotten to. Over time, the stories began to exaggerate away from Mick Foley was bullied and to Mick Foley eats a plate of worms a day. The girls around him wouldn't look at him, let alone kiss him. Real quick side note on this. Mick Foley's real life wife, Colette, is stunning, so did pretty well for himself. Also, his daughter is quite fond after by wrestling nerds because she's also gorgeous. But I'm going to leave that there because she gets a lot of creepy comments, and we're not going to go into that. Back to the interview.
No picture of her on the show, huh?
No, won't be doing that, or his wife. If you know, you know. If you don't, it's fine. You're better off. JR lets us know that next week we will look into the scarred soul, his want to be a wrestler like Shawn Michaels in Dude Love, as well as his dark turn to Cactus Jack. This is perfect. This is excellently done. It gets an A+. And next week it's going to be even better. And I cannot wait to talk about that one because there's actually some really good behind the scenes storytelling that actually goes into it that I also can't wait to talk about. So fantastic, A+. It's perfect in every way.
And you are right. It is interview one. I slipped because all of these things blurred together in my mind.
Yes.
But after that, we've got Leif Cassidy versus Scott Taylor, who I've never heard of.
Nope.
And will never become anything.
Nope.
But and I think it's because he's just simply too hotty for the WWF. Anyways, it's 2 minutes, 40 seconds. Tell me about this one.
Jerry lets us know that RVD cannot come back on Raw because Paul E. sued them. This is kayfabe. Scott Taylor, another underrated talent. Leif Cassidy immediately starts attacking Taylor before he ever steps in the rings. Cassidy controls most of the match when Taylor gets a roll-up win. Cassidy goes nuts. And he charges JR to tell him he can't take this anymore. I don't actually recall this leading anywhere. Like, it's an interesting angle of he's starting to lose a lot. I mean, he's always kind of lost, but now it's gotten to him. It's an interesting angle, and I don't think they actually do anything with it. So I'm giving it a C, but I don't think it actually becomes something.
It's kind of funny too that this is a match between two guys that in a year, maybe less, become huge.
Yeah.
It's just kind of funny watching this. This is Al Snow versus, obviously, I've given it away, Scotty Too Hottie. And they're nobodies. This is just some random match on Raw. And in a year, maybe less, these guys become mainstays on this roster. It's just funny how that stuff works sometimes. Anyway, Steve Austin's also looking for a partner.
Yes.
And he goes and asks Sable if she's interested. And she doesn't got a whole lot on.
No,
in this
she does
segment.
not.
And you got anything more you want to add?
So yeah, he barges into Sable's dressing room and she's naked, but she is covered. She's covered only because she's holding up an Austin 316 shirt against her. Austin just goes, "You want to be my partner?" This is more playfully sexual than outright sexual. So I'll allow it. I'm giving this a B. It's more like, wink, wink, nudge, nudge. It's nothing too
Yes.
crazy. I appreciate that. That humor I'm totally fine with. So I gave it a B. I liked it.
And yeah, it's like it's just something that's happened. They don't make a thing of it. It's just he's barged in on her.
Mhm.
That's the joke, right? He's barged in on her. They don't make a big thing about the fact she's naked. She just is. And then it's kind of goofy awesome, which I really enjoy when he's just like, and that's it. He's just like, hey, you want to be my partner?
Yeah.
And she's like, no, like,
Yeah.
what are you doing?
He's not
And he's
trying to see her.
No.
He's just, I got a goal. You
No.
want to be my partner or not,
Yeah. So I enjoyed it. After that, though, we get our number 2. And this is where it happens, Joseph.
It sure is.
We get one of the most infamous moments in WWF history. The Hart Foundation comes out because they've got a big surprise for us. But Shawn has a bigger surprise for them. Why don't you tell me about it, Joseph?
The Christman comes out with his apostles, and this time he's only on crutches, not in a wheelchair. Bret tells the crowd to shut up and then taunts freedom of speech. He then trashes HBK again. Bret says everyone wants to know what his big surprise is. He says Shawn has announced that he has finally recovered from his knee injury. Bret gets a very smug look on his face. He is intentionally burying Shawn here.
Mhm.
Bret says there is a real man and hero that will come back at King of the Ring from a knee injury, and it's himself. He says everyone is concerned about him coming back. Hart challenges Shawn to a match at King of the Ring, and if he can't win in less than 10 minutes, then he will never wrestle in the United States again. Shawn appears on the Titantron and says, you talk about freedom of speech. Well, last week you talked so long we went off air listening to you babble. Shawn's now burying Bret Hart. He says, at Mania last year, you couldn't have beat me in 60 minutes. What makes you believe you could do it in 10? And I want to stop real quick because that is a great burn line. That is 100% storyline. That match happened. Now you have this and you're saying 10 minutes. That's the kind of stuff that two professionals would be going with, but they aren't acting professional at this time. So Shawn points out that Bret's hubris is due to the gang around him, but mano a mano, he would win. HBK says he wants everyone down there. Bret says, oh, they'll be down there. And HBK has a stipulation that each man must be handcuffed to a ring post so that HBK and Bret Hart can face each other one-on-one so Bret can have no excuses when Bret Hart loses. HBK then says, and buckle up, you couldn't go 10 minutes in any situation, if you know what I mean. Okay, that's fine. Even though lately you've had some sunny days, my friend, you still can't get the job done. The two go back and forth for a couple more segments and the segment ends. This, obviously, we've said it a number of times, is the famous Sunny Days segment. So there's obviously some backstage stuff on this. I'll go into that. Bret Hart remarked on his on this, in his book, My Real Life in the Cartoon World of Wrestling. Quote, during an in-ring interview, the first half of the night, Shawn was groggy and slurring his words, which I think he was fine. He might have been high or drunk or whatever, but he was fine earlier in the night. As I climbed into the ring with the Hart...
It wasn't unusual for Shawn at this moment in time to be drunk. But he seems okay here.
Yes.
But go on, yeah.
As I climbed into the ring with the Hart Foundation to open the second half, Shawn appeared on the big screen wasted and suggested on live TV that I couldn't get it up for 10 minutes and that I'd been having some sunny days, a blatant suggestion that I'd been sleeping with Sunny. I couldn't hear him well because it was so noisy in the ring, so the remark sailed right over my head. When the interview was over, most of the boys were seething at how unprofessional it was. Any hopes we had of working together went right out the window. Shawn was so out of it that night, the Hunter and China had to help him out of the building. That may have happened. When I got home, Julie and Stu were upset about the Sunny comment, but it wasn't until Dallas and his school pals, Dallas is his child, and his school pals asked me whether I was doing stuff with Sonny that I realized that Shawn had hurt my family. At the time, the pro wrestling code of honor was still clear. No man hurts another man's family. Jim Ross phoned me at home to apologize on behalf of the office and promised that Shawn's unprofessional behavior would be dealt with. I'd heard that line before. This time I felt I had to do something to settle the score, end quote. So again, Brett does love to pretend that Shawn started all the cheap shots. And don't get me wrong, I'm very sure Shawn at best was unprofessional backstage, at best.
Yeah.
But Brett had been calling Shawn gay and alluding to Shawn's knee injury being fake on live TV for months. And even prior to his heel turn, by the way, before that ever happened, he was doing it. Hart is 1,000% a professional in the ring. I will not argue that ever. That's full stop in the ring between the ropes. He is professional. But you can't convince me that he's a victim here. So Sonny also has talked about this. This was an interview, and the transcript that I got is from WrestlingInc.com. Quote, it was a pay-per-view, and we were in the pay-per-view hotel. And I don't even remember what pay-per-view, and I don't honestly remember what town this was in. But he came by my room for something. Sonny added, he came by my room, and we were just sitting there talking. And then, boom, the kiss happened. And it wasn't even that good of a kiss. So why would I go in for anything else? It kind of was like kissing a sibling. Yeah, it kind of was. It kind of wasn't. There was no passion there, end quote. Few things here, because again, all this is hearsay. Sonny does have a tendency to lie, much like the other two individuals in this storyline. Sonny and Shawn had, this is well known, a backstage relationship where Sonny was cheating on Chris Candido. It was bad, shouldn't have been happening. Shawn was single at the time. He was just in the cheating. She was the one committing the act. She eventually decided to go back to Chris Candido, apparently, according to her. And so Shawn was upset. Now, also backstage, and this is also well documented, Sonny and Bret Hart began sharing a locker room, which they both have said was only because Bret didn't want to dress with the boys. Okay, whatever. Let's just say that's true. Honestly, I don't really care. This story that Sonny tells is cheating. It is. And if you're a guy who's in a relationship and you think it isn't, go tell your partner, hey, just so you know, I kissed so-and-so yesterday, and then tell me what happens. Because they're going to freak the fuck out. They famously shared a locker room, like I mentioned, and if the story is to believe, Bret bare minimum tried. Which means it's very unlikely he wasn't trying with others. Again, all hearsay.
Whoa.
All just
Allegedly.
speculation. Oh yeah,
Bret
allegedly. But that's my point, right? So the squeaky clean, oh, never happened, All right, bud. Okay. Been divorced a number of times. Okay. Anyways, Shawn is wrong here. Shawn shouldn't have made the comment. It's that simple. He's being a dick. I thought the line real quick of you couldn't go for 10 minutes in any situation is fine. It's a bit below the belt, but I think it's fine. It's about as far as he probably should have gone for that. The Sunny Days comment was dumb. I do find it suspect that he's like, oh, my kid started asking me about it. I doubt that. I think it's more just he wanted to embellish his story. But I know a lot of people have mentioned how unprofessional it was. So I'm sure people in the back actually were like, what the fuck? I'm sure it wasn't just a Bret saying, oh, everyone was on my side. I think quite a few people probably were. And also the locker room at this point is split up into factions. It just is. So I'm sure there were plenty of people who were like, oh, I can't believe you did that to you. It just is what it is. This is just two grown men acting like children and doing it on screen for the enjoyment of some. And that's where we're at. The segment itself.
Like me.
Yeah. The segment itself, by the way, the Sunny Days comment, I think it's blown out of proportion only because now in hindsight, we all know.
Yeah.
In 1997, there's no fucking way you would have pieced that shit together. I mean, maybe. But the average fan, there's no fucking way. So overall, I do think this segment works. I think it actually works for the most part. The comment aside, I gave it a B. I think I'm fine with the segment. The comment shouldn't have happened, but other than that, every single other thing was like, yeah, that makes sense. I thought the setup was good. I liked that we're going to have a match at King of the Ring. It all made sense to me. I was like, yeah, this storyline makes sense.
Now, I think I've previously said, that I'm not a huge fan of when stuff gets too real on wrestling.
Yes.
And I'm here to tell you that I'm a hypocrite because I like this.
Well, I think you like the pettiness of it.
Yeah.
Not necessarily because
it's
things are too real.
It's good heat.
Yeah.
They so clearly hate each other. I'm invested in this. I want to see this match. And that's what it's all about, right? It's about selling tickets. It's about wanting me to buy that pay-per-view to see these two dudes go at it. And they so clearly hate each other that I got to see that match. That's going to sell tickets. But speaking of things getting too real that I don't like, we got a Goldust versus Rockabilly match where they bring out his daughter, because we're still doing that.
Yeah.
We got his 3-year-old daughter, and JR disappointingly makes a dig at Dusty, saying that Dakota likes hogging the microphone as much as her grandfather.
Yes. Yeah.
And I'm like, good Lord, just stop.
Don't do it. Yeah.
But anyways, we got a match. We got Rockabilly versus Goldust, 4 minutes, 5 seconds.
Yeah. The way that gets set up is Goldust comes out first and he asks who would like to see Marlena tonight. The crowd cheers because at least the one positive thing I mentioned before is that those interviews made people appreciate Marlena even more. The crowd cheers. Goldust introduces not just Marlena, but also his little daughter, Dakota. Dakota grabs the microphone from Marlena, a 3-year-old, and proceeds to cut the worst promo I've ever seen. Granted, she's like 3, but that's no excuse for mediocrity. Honestly, though, this is kind of sweet. I will say, like this in a like microcosm is fine. You know what I mean? In a vacuum, I think this is the right phrase. Like that, it's fine. Goldust wastes no time though beating up Rockabilly. He then does his sexual gimmicks on Rockabilly that to me mean way less because he just spent 2 weeks tearing down the androgynous side of his character. So what's the point of it? Rockabilly hits a Fameasser, which he does not realize is his finisher yet. Honky eventually goes to hit Goldust with the guitar, but Goldust counters and slams it over Honky's head. This results in a disqualification. For some reason, a Rockabilly win, which is just baffling. Given this a C.
Yeah, because Honky Tonk ain't in this. So again, the rules don't matter until they do. So in this case, it's a DQ. Match over. I tell you, though, you're right about the promo. I would have sent Dakota back to OVW because she needs to work on it. Needs to work on it. But speaking of people who need to work on promos, we got an Ahmed Johnson promo.
Was Dakota's promo better than Ahmed Johnson's?
I feel like I understood Dakota. So I will say I largely get this one.
Yes.
Farooq has been playing the race card, as Ahmed says.
As Vinman says.
As Vinman says. Yeah, yes. Okay. Fair. But Farooq wants to make it clear that he's above that. He doesn't care about that kind of stuff. So
yeah.
Tell me.
So Vinman asks, like you said, about Farooq's comments last week saying Farooq played the race card, which is a very dismissive white person thing to say. Let me be clear here. There are examples of individuals playing the race card in history. Swerve Strickland. I think it's Juicy Smollett. That happened a few years ago. Swerve Strickland.
Yeah.
My point is that there is 100% racial discrimination going on in 1997's WWF. Like that, you can't really convince me it isn't. And everything that Farooq said has been like, yeah, okay, 100%. Like I get
it's fair.
Yeah. So the race card line here is dismissive. It is 100% dismissive. So Ahmed Johnson said he was hoped he wouldn't have been asked this question, but he will tell the truth. He calls Farooq a liar, a sellout, and a racist. What? Then in the next breath says that Farooq told the truth last week. Okay, so that completely contradicts what you just said. Okay. Ahmed Johnson asked the same questions Farooq does and says that it doesn't matter to him. He will be the Hank Aaron in the WWF. I'm giving this D. I understand why they used Ahmed in this. I think he was the wrong guy for it.
Yeah, I like the Farooq stuff.
Yeah.
I really do, and like I've told you before, I would have put the belt on Farooq
Yes.
during this. I think he would. I think we could have done some fun things with him. And I was reading about Ron Simmons just the other day. WCW put the World Heavyweight title on him.
Yeah.
He was a one-time
1992, I believe.
something like that. Yeah. He's a one-time WCW Heavyweight Championship or
He
champion.
was,
So it's not.
yeah. He was the very first African American World Heavyweight Champion.
Mhm.
That's one of his big claim to fames.
So it's not like he hasn't held the gold before, you know?
Yeah.
So I just feel like put it on him. Think it could be fun. But we don't. We don't. And instead we go to our next segment of Steve Austin being goofy, which I really enjoy.
Yes.
He's still looking for a partner, and he arrives at Harvey Wimpleman. Another great potential pick for him. He's about to he's asking Harvey if Harvey will be his partner. The Brooklyn Brawler shows up and says, "Nah, pick me."
Mm-hmm.
And then Steve Austin beats his ass. And after beating his ass, tells Harvey that he needs to take the job.
Yeah.
But after I just watched this guy just get his ass beat by Steve Austin, I might think about it, because Steve Austin says, "You just have to stand there. I just need a partner. You can just stand there and I'll get the job done." I loved this.
Yeah.
What did you think?
No, it's great. There's really nothing more to say. I gave this a B. It's fantastic. Really enjoyable.
For some reason, we get the Super Soaker commercial again after this. I liked it the first time. I don't like it the exact same commercial again. So there you have it. Come up with something new. And then we get, are you ready? Rocky Maivia versus Farooq.
Mm-hmm.
Is this the start of something good? 2 minutes, 50 seconds. Tell me.
It's an interesting one because I don't know the answer to that. And there's a reason why, because what ends on this is an interesting tease. But the next week, we have a completely new thing that happens, which is also an interesting tease. But we'll have to get to that part next week. We get a fun but quick match that sees Rocky go up for his diving crossbody. Farooq knocks him off the ropes and hits the Dominator for the win. Underrated move. Notorious African Americans Crush and Savio Vega get ready to beat up Rocky when Farooq stops them. He tells them to get back to the locker room. This is supposed to be he's black and clearly we're all black, so let's not attack him kind of thing. I understand what they're doing with it. And again, to your point, is this teasing potentially Rocky joining? We unfortunately will never know, because obviously he gets hurt within the next few weeks and then he's out for many weeks before he finally does join. But next week, they're going to pivot again, and it's also something interesting, but I'll talk about that next week. I gave this a C. I enjoyed it.
Yeah, it seems like that's the angle. This must have been an idea that got sidetracked because of his injury, because it really seems like the fact, the Nation goes to beat the crap out of Rocky, and Farooq says, "Nah, leave him alone." It just seems like they had an angle there where they were starting to think Rocky joined Nation. And it's so important that he does, because Rocky becomes the Rock in the Nation. We start getting a lot of the Rock mannerisms in the Nation. So this needs to happen, or else we might not get the Rock we know and love. So I'm excited for the Nation Rock. He's not there very long. He's not in the Nation all that long,
right?
But it's a really important moment for development in his career. So that's going to be fun to watch. After that, the Harts find Bob Holly because they're a little mad at the fact that Bob won. So they just beat the ever-loving hell out of him, which I liked. I thought that was a good heel thing to do. Yeah. Yeah. After that, we've got the Undertaker, who joins us for an interview. And he also won't play the race card, Joseph. Tell me about it.
Yeah. Vince asked Paul Bearer's secret that he mentioned last week. Taker says he wants to talk about Farooq instead. What? Taker says Farooq decided to play the race card. No! Taker says he is not black or white. He is the reaper of wayward souls. Taker is in fact very white. He seems like a this meat just needs salt and pepper kind of guy. He says when you wonder why
nothing wrong with that. Nothing wrong with that. Anyways, go on.
So much wrong with that. He says when you wonder why you're not WWF champ, it isn't because you're black, it's because you couldn't beat the Undertaker. That line itself is weird because it actually kind of works.
Mhm.
I just think everything that led to it that he said was like, you know, again, and we've said this before, if you're going to do a race issue character and really like, not just like, oh, we're going to kind of tease it, which is what Nation has been. Nation has kind of teased it playfully, like, oh, this might be racist. Most of it's been against Ahmed and calling him an Uncle Tom. Now they're straight up calling out the entire company. And like, that's where they're coming at. You cannot have them not go over. Like, if it's a known issue, and so far it all is, you have to fucking pull the trigger, and they don't, which is wild. Anyways.
You also can't have three honkies in your faction. Well, I digress.
Vince again asked about the secret. Taker says this is not the time. We hear Paul Bearer over the speakers shout, "Oh yes, it is." Now it's interesting because Paul Bearer is still doing the Paul Bearer-ish voice, and next week we're going to see a change, and we'll talk about that then. He's on the Titantron,
and we like the change.
We do. He outlines Taker's parents' funeral. He says fire has opened up old wounds. He says, you burned me, and now it's time for me to hurt you. Taker tells Paul to wait. He needs more time. And Paul says, you know what? Maybe I do owe you that. Maybe I do owe you some time. So you have 7 days to give me your answer. I'm giving this whole segment a C because the first half I hated and the second half I fucking loved. So that's C.
And in reality, Paul Bearer gives him 7 months.
well, no, that's not true. But yes, okay.
Kind of. It kind of is. After that, we get a Stone Cold Steve Austin match versus Jim the Anvil Neidhart, which is pretty exciting, right? And that is our main event at 1 minute 51 seconds. My voice started breaking there.
I saw that.
Puberty started. Yeah. I just cut it. Go ahead.
I liked how you pivoted there. It was good. Austin comes out with the crutch and immediately starts swinging with Anvil. Not with the crutch, to be clear, just starts swinging. Pillman comes to ringside and joins in commentary. Owen and Bulldog are at the stage watching. Pillman says, payback is coming and payback is a bitch. Austin eventually goes after Pillman and Anvil takes advantage of this. Pillman runs in with the crutch and nails Austin. The other Harts, of course, join and they attack. And then Sean joins with a steel chair and clears them. He actually hits them with the steel chair, which is crazy. JR informs Austin and Sean that Gorilla Monsoon has dictated next week it will be Bulldog and Owen putting up the tag team titles against Stone Cold Steve Austin and the Heartbreak Kid, Shawn Michaels. Both HBK and Stone Cold are irate. They get in each other's faces and start throwing hands and have to be separated as the show closes. This is not my favorite segment. I'm giving this one a B+, but it's still so entertaining. Fantastic.
Was it better than Nitro, though? He almost... Yeah. For those of you that aren't... We now have a YouTube version. For those of you listening on the podcast, we now have a YouTube version of this show. So I'm going to tell you that he almost spit water when I asked if this was better than Nitro. Because, yeah, it was.
Yeah, way better.
Right?
And Nitro's still crushing them in the ratings, and this is head and tails better.
I don't get it. I really don't get it. what are people tuning into week after week on Nitro? And at this point in my life, in 1997, I was a Nitro guy. I was doing it. I was one of these people that was tuning in every week to watch Nitro. I now don't know why. I don't. I mean, maybe they just kept me coming back because of the Sting stuff. Like, what was it? Was it Sting that we want Sting? Because you hear that chant all the time. People want Sting. Is that it? Is that what gets people coming back? Why are we not watching Raw?
I think it's because all those people they jumped on when they jumped on, which made sense at the time. We've talked about we've been on record saying, "Wow, everything WCW is doing is great. Everything WWF is doing is garbage." We've done that song and dance. Okay, so it's not like we're trying to pick on any company. It's like this is where they're at this point. I think because of how bad WWF was, and it was so fucking bad, that the people who left and Nitro became 2 hours first, just went, bye. Like, there's no way anything you could do is good. And so it's really going to take a giant momentum shift for those people to really start coming back. The storylines are way better. But I will say, I don't know if they've had anything on Raw that has been holy shit momentous. Instead, they've had really great building blocks everywhere.
Yeah.
That's, I think, the big thing, why you don't have a giant swing, because nothing has made you go, oh my God, I have to see that. Even though if you are watching Raw, you're just like, man, we're eating good every week.
Yeah, and I will say, I mean, WCW is going to make a comeback, right? Once we actually get Sting, once DDP really comes into his own, we get Goldberg. Like, there are going to be some hot moments still for WCW. But right now, it's boring. It's the same thing every week. Well, WWF may be missing, but they're hitting a lot too. They're giving me fun angles that I'm interested in. This Shawn Michaels thing, I'm hot for it. I want to see these dudes beat the crap out of each other. I'm paying for that pay-per-view, right?
Oh man.
Anything more to add?
Bye guys.